welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Look at this. Oh, yeah. I'm back. Look at this, Gretchen. I'm not being silenced anymore. That's right. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, May the 4th. Today is National Renewal Day because everybody needs some renewals in their life. It's also National Candied Orange Peel Day, which just seems crazy to me. It's also Bird Day because, birds, they chirp and they fly. It's International Firefighters Day because everyone loves a fireman. And not to mention, we love to start safe and sane fires when we are smoking the best weed in the world. It's also National Weather Observers Day. World Password Day because password 1 is not an adequate password. It's also National Self-Employed Day because entrepreneurs truly do run the world. It's also National Day of Reason because if you didn't know about being self-employed, you should maybe think of another reason. And it's also National Orange Juice Day because you can't have National Candied Orange Peel Day without it being Orange Juice Day. It's also National Day of Prayer. And of course, it is National Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. Use that fancy little QR code right there in the top-hand corner of your screen to find out where we live on the internet. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us in Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. If you are joining us in YouTube and you want us to acknowledge your comments in the chat, then make sure you make that a super chat because that helps support the show and will give us something else to talk about besides just your comment. But without further ado, we're going to bring it into the dope dad himself who is traveling on the road because it's All of Flowers Day 2. That's right. It is the dope dad himself who is not getting to do any daddying right now because he's out doing Hall of Flowering. That's right. It is the dope dad, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Oh, yeah. I'll be home to you tonight, baby Zoe. Daddy'll be home. But thank you, Jason. And I would also like to, before my story begins, offer a trigger warning to Jason Beck and any other anti-union conservatives out there with a tendency to lose their shit whenever they hear of a successful worker uprising.
I actually really like this story. I can't wait to comment.
Because of after a 13-day and unfair labor practice strike led by Teamsters Local 777 at 2 Rise Cannabis dispensaries in Joliet and 1 in Niles, Illinois, forced parent company Green Thumb Industries to raise their wages by 50% during the strike. Big win for the people. Yeah. So per the article, workers are now returning to their jobs and demanding wage increases be made permanent. GTI broke the law and we will now hold them accountable legally to make sure that they pay, is what Peter Finn, Teamsters Western Region International VP of Food Processing Division Director said. Whether it's direct action or a legal battle, the 1.3 million members of Teamster Union will continue to stand with cannabis workers in this historic fight. Federal labor law suggests that if an employee makes a unilateral wage increase during collective bargaining, those wage increases are precedent setting. The company also committed additional unfair labor practices during their unfair labor practice strike including unlawful surveillance and the promise of promotions for those who crossed the picket line. This is just the beginning, stated Jim Glimko, president of Local 777. These brave men and women just undertook the longest strike in the history of the cannabis industry because they are not afraid. Somebody cue the Eminem. They are not afraid of taking a stand. We're showing the whole industry that if you don't play by the rules, we will pull your card. Heather Alvarado, a verified cannabis worker out of the Rise Niles location, said that we're looking forward to seeing these raises in writing and also getting back to our customers and patients. A lot of them suffered as a result of the company causing this to happen, and we're glad that the strike is over. We'd like to thank all elected officials, customers, community allies, and everybody else who showed their support and continue to stick with us as our fight for better wages, retirement security, and fair treatment continues. And the Teamsters seem to be on a roll in cannabis. The news follows recent cannabis industry wins for the group as Captain Jack's dispensary out in San Bernardino, California, in February joined the Teamsters. And they also won another unfair labor practice complaint filed against Sundial. And they also unionized nearly 400 cannabis workers since January 1st of this year. Sunnyside Dispensary in Buffalo Grove, Illinois, and more than 300 drivers and warehouse workers at cannabis delivery service Grassdoor joined the Teamsters in January. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News, and I'd like to hear what Jason Beck has to say about this, because I'm sure he is triggered as all hell right now.
I'm definitely not triggered at all, and for any reason whatsoever. But I will tell you this much, Rico: if I was part of this union, I would have led the chant. And you know what my chant would have been with all the workers striking outside? I'd have been like, "What do we want?" And everyone's gonna yell, "Fire weed!" And I'm gonna say, "When do we want it?" And they're gonna all yell, "Now!"
And what would that solve?
What would that solve?
Did you guys know that actually saying there's a trigger that actually saying trigger warning is a trigger for people?
How?
So anything is not a trigger these days.
Triggering, just go ahead and say it, Rico. You don't need to warn us.
I guess there's so many guns in the nation these days that everything's a trigger warning, right?
Yeah, no kidding. You know, there's a lot of doctors unionizing. I wouldn't say a lot. There's doctors that are talking about unionizing, and there's only been one 3-person group that's successfully done it before, but now another group in Minnesota of 65 doctors has voted to unionize. So I think the unions are gaining a lot of steam in places where people are just done being micromanaged and underpaid for their services. Not that that's true of all doctors, but certainly like in the primary care realm, it's just gotten so bad.
Rico, does it say anywhere in the story their actual wages? Because I love when they only talking percentages. If they're going from $4 to $8, that doesn't impress me. You know what I mean?
A little Shania Twain over here.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. I would love to see them have more than a living wage, to be a wage that they can actually, support their families on and plan for the future and actually make this a sustainable career.
Are you suggesting, Gretchen, that Republicans are not a monolith?
I think I've said that since day one. Look at me and Jason Beck. What similarities do you see between me and Jason Beck?
You're both white.
Similarities. I'm actually not white.
No, well, thank God for that. See, no similarities.
Actually, we have a few similarities, Gretchen.
Such as
Oh,
we're both Republicans.
Other than that.
Elephants do have thick skin. They do have thick skin.
Yeah, we have thick skin. Mm-hmm. We don't care what these pot-loving libs have to say when they're all just like naysayers and want to live in their own little echo chamber.
True.
I believe it was you that was in the echo chamber most of this week, Jason.
Did you just say that I was right, Gretchen? And that's what I just heard.
No, I'm still waiting on $100 from you.
Stop it. You are so silly.
Cue the sigh.
Kentucky, do you not recall that bet? Come on, Chief.
We got all of these bets on camera, so I have no clue what you're talking about.
Oh, we're pulling the data.
I think Dr. Mary has some really valid points there. We're seeing more and more of the union movement sweeping across America. In cannabis alone, I would agree with you, Dr. Mary. especially when it comes to these MSOs. From what we've seen this year at Curaleaf, at TrueLeaf, unions are unfortunately necessary to fight back against broad capitalism like this in this sense. But that's just my take on it.
Well, we just get so used to paying these CEOs these massive incomes and massive bonuses. And we don't realize how many people, or we don't make that connection that the workers are getting exploited for that, and that the consumer is getting exploited for that. You know, you have to do a lot of prior authorization denials to pay the Blue Cross Blue Shield CEO how much he makes. And it's just repeated across every insurance company. And the same thing is certainly true in the cannabis industry. I mean, I'm just not here to support industries where, I think the standard should be what the standard was for years before things went nutsy cuckoo in the United States, where your CEO is paid 16 times your highest paid employee. And that's enough, you know, because you go much higher than and the thought is, well, if we don't retain him, he'll just go to a new industry because he'll bring his CEO skills to a new industry. But the reality is that isn't that easy. You can't go from selling laundry machines to selling cannabis and think that you know what you're doing. I mean, I've certainly seen people who have the ego to think they know what they're doing when they do that, but they're not effective.
But that's what matters in America is the ego, though.
Dr. Mary, if you're going from selling washing machines to selling weed, the only way that would work is if you were actually selling hash, because you could use a washing machine to produce hash.
Yeah, you have to be really well versed in the cold cycle.
Yes, lots of cold water, lots of agitation. You know what I mean? Yes. Make those pop off.
Right. Yeah, well, you know, maybe you can put on your resume, you know, if you have done the Tide Punch, then you would qualify as an executive.
Oh my God.
That's another one of those dangerous TikTok challenges that should lead to TikTok being removed from our
what state did this strike happen in?
The noisiest of all ill noises.
Illinoises. Okay. I just found it was interesting. I know GTI is in Nevada too, so I was wondering if Local 777 was actually in Nevada. So I was going to say, isn't that?
Well, that was going to be my follow-up here is how many people did this impact? And does this impact all GTI workers or just the ones in Illinois?
Just in Illinois.
Please. Illinois.
Yeah, in 3 locations in Illinois, so 400 workers.
Man, that's a lot.
400 workers.
Yeah, but if GTI wants to set a real example, then they'll double the wages of everyone. Why are they doing it in Illinois?
GTI can just totally put themselves out of business because they're paying way too much in employee wages and not making any money at all. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Gretchen.
I'm not saying put yourself out of business, but I'm saying there is something about being an ethical, good business owner, which also helps drive your business. I would want to do business then with GTI if I knew that they were treating their workers properly.
If they were ethical, good business owner, they wouldn't need a union to regulate them.
And you know what? Westmore is a GTI guy too, you know? Yeah. What was that, Dr. Mary?
I said, it doesn't sound very Republican of you, Gretchen. Don't you just want to get the cheapest good, the best goods at the cheapest price?
I do.
No, what is very Republican to me is building a good community without government interference. That's what I'm looking for, is for business to stand up and take care of its workers so the government doesn't have to do it for them.
Right. And Mason Lopez in the chat just said they're not trying to set an example. They put up a fence between the strikers and the dispensary for a week. They were forced into the raises. I agree, and that was stated in the article. They were pushing back against this, and they were actually paying workers to cross the picket line.
Did they have any scab tenders? Scab tenders?
They did not call anybody out if there were.
Tenders.
Yes. We got to go to a commercial though. We're going to be right back.
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah, you know what time it is. That's right. It's Tuesday over here at Green Street, and we got Smoky Vanilla with us in the building. So that's right. It is time to stretch and smoke. We just got done smoking. Now we're going to stretch it out, and then we're going to smoke again.
Let's go. I'm Smoky Vanilla with my background in kinesiology and bodywork massage and assisted stretching. You got to come check it out, baby. Check me out on IG. It's Smoky Vanilla 1, Stretch and Smoke. Twitter, Smoky Vanilla. Social Club, Stretch and Smoke. We're also on Sports Recovery by Dan and Jam.
If you want to feel as good as I look, then make sure that you get a stretch and smoke in with smoky vanilla. Yeet!
Is Smoky Vanilla out here? Is he up here?
No, he's not. He's back in LA. We'll be with him next week, though.
He's stretched back down to the Southern California.
We're on a NorCal tour right now.
I love it.
Are y'all both at Hall of Flowers right now?
We will be. We will be later today. Hall of Flowers opens right after the show.
Yes, it does. So High at Nine's head honcho is coming up next, the industry's longest continuously operating retailer. Yesterday, he was confirmed and crowned as the highest Republican in Santa Rosa, California. And you know what? I must say, we were floating last night, man. We were floating.
No, I converted
coming to the stage next. What was that, Jason?
I converted Charlie Brown to be a Republican.
That's some bull crap right there. Y'all know who it is. Jason Beck.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Rico. Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Guess what? We're almost at Friday. It's almost the end of the week. But today, I think you guys may actually really enjoy this story today. I know I kind of found it extremely amusing because a Boston family's home being mistaken for a non-existent marijuana dispensary. Man, if this ain't a trap house, I don't know what is. Coming up, we have a Boston family is beyond frustrated that their address is connected to a non-existent marijuana business. Denise King said multiple people have shown up at her Neponset Avenue home in Dorchester seeking an order they made through Starlight Greens Delivery Dispensary. According to Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, a marijuana establishment under the name Starlight Greens Delivery Dispensary does not exist in the state. King said one man who traveled to her home said he was there to pick up $154 worth of cannabis products he had ordered through Straight Greens. In a quote, so we talked to him and we explained to him that we think he's been taken to the cleaners, he said. According to the website listed for the dispensary, which does not include the words Starlight Greens, it is a delivery-only cannabis business that makes same-day deliveries to customers within 2 hours. So that raises the question, why were the company's customers asked to pick up their cannabis products? And it was one of several red flags spotted by King. In a quote, she says, it's noticeable that it didn't put up one of those pop-up windows that says, are you 18 or older, ? And it also did not have that. And it also said had no telephone number. King said she was on hold for 2 hours when she contacted Google about the issue. So she left a 1-star review that read, please do not exist. Oh, man. According to the Google reviews, King was one of several people who left a 1-star review and questioned whether Starlight Greens was a legitimate business. But excuse me. But Starlight Greens did have approximately a dozen 5-star reviews on Google, leaving the average rating at about 4 stars. Yet another red flag for King was when a young woman arrived at her porch for a cannabis order at about midnight on Sunday. Oh, man, just ringing the doorbell. Hey, where's my product? In the quote, she says, I just explained to her how really weird it was. This is in Massachusetts. You can go get beer after 11 o'clock. There's no way you're going to be able to get pot at a store after 11 o'clock, King said. King and her husband, Jimmy, filed a report with the Boston Police Department. In a quote, they say, there are people out there that are violent. You know what I mean? You don't know what's coming to the front door, Jimmy King said. He says, get my address off the site, Denise King says. And the Massachusetts Attorney General's office confirmed to News Center 5 that this is investigating the incidents after receiving a report from the King family. But no other news on this other than that. Oh, man. What are you going to do, Rico, if someone shows up to your door and like, hey, I placed an order for delivery. They said to pick it up here. What are you going to do when they wake up Zozo at midnight? And this is Jason reporting for High at 9 News.
In honor of May the 4th, I would like to cue Admiral Akbar and saying, "It's a trap!" to all my Star Wars fans out there. This is unfortunate for both the business and the address of these poor people. This is way too close of an address. I don't know what can be remedied. Is anything like this ever happened? It has to have happened in California, especially in Los Angeles. There's a lot of duplicate.
Let me just tell you, this would not be happening in Texas. If you step on someone's lawn, your ass is grass.
Y'all don't have nothing.
Okay. It's because you don't have any guns in Massachusetts. That's why this is happening.
Ooh,
Right.
Verbal shots fired over there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Massachusetts.
I'm sorry. It's like, what?
The third ring in my doorbell
grass.
after 11 p.m.
No.
I mean, I do find it kind of ironic though that it's a delivery service and they're asking people to come pick it up. I do agree with that. Like that's just, I mean, where's the common sense at? I mean, even made Gretchen laugh.
The whole thing's so ridiculous. Whatever. I don't know.
I mean, do you think it's possible that the King family are really just running a trap and they just want to keep the people's money?
Or it could be. It could be somebody who has a vendetta against them is just set up right around the corner or whatever.
Oh, they got an angry Karen. They got an angry Karen neighbor.
They got an angry Karen.
They're not mowing their lawn. Oh,
they were upset about a comment made on Nextdoor.
Is it not possible to give someone a 0? I don't understand why they are still getting 1s.
I think you can only give them 1 star.
Yeah, you can go only as low as a 1 star, but then you can say in your comment, "I wish I could have given this person a 0."
Oh man, crazy.
I don't understand why you'd set up a delivery company. I mean, I guess I could understand keeping your address secret, but then why would you send people to go? So it's just a total scam.
Total scam. Yes.
These people are just collecting the money.
Yes.
And then running off to the races.
Yeah.
Just giving them.
They probably think stoners are easy pickings.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, apparently they are because they've had multiple people walk up to this house.
We're,
good old
traumatized too of being. We don't want to turn them in. Oh, this was a fake, weed delivery service when I know I'm doing something illegal. I mean,
how many people?
I wonder. It's not illegal in the state. They're not doing buying the weed isn't illegal.
No, buying the weed isn't illegal, but from not necessarily a legal source, from not a dispensary. There's a way of doing it.
I'd turn them in.
I just
take my $150, send me to someone's house at midnight. I'd be pissed. I'd turn them in a heartbeat.
Gretchen, the admitted Karen.
I just wonder how many people are still at their homes waiting on the delivery man to pull up, and then they keep on sending in the chat like, "Hey, how long until your delivery person's arrive?" And they just keep telling them 5 more minutes, like old school.
Hello.
When are you showing up back in the pager days? How long until you get here? Oh, 5 more minutes. It's really like 5 hours till people show up with the drug.
I hope they didn't send the money electronically before picking up.
I don't hear you.
Well, at least in that case, they're not dealing with, spending their money on weed. At least they're not going to get in trouble doing that with their credit card.
Yeah, we're gonna try to stay on time today. We're gonna keep it pushing. And yes, we are coming up next. That's right, to the fiery redheaded conservative Gretchen Gailey, who loves to tell pot loving libs all about themselves, on top of dressing up her dogs in most ridiculous outfits on the planet. Some people would say it's cruelty. She says they love it. But we'll let you be the judge. What do you have to say today, Gretchen? Founder of
I have to say, Jason Beck, the proof is in the pudding. The videos are there. The dogs love it. I don't know why you're such a hater. Must be all that Bammer weed of yours you're smoking.
I think you hit this.
Anyway, my headline is coming from Maryland, and it is about another fantastic Republican in this space that people should know about and love and adore. We're not all Jason Beck. After 2 decades, Maryland moves from recognizing medicinal cannabis to recreational use. That's the headline. The signing of legislation legalizing cannabis in Maryland marks a milepost in a long, strange trip for one Republican former delegate turned marijuana policy advocate. Don Murphy, a former lawmaker from Baltimore County, once sponsored legislation 2 decades ago that made it possible for someone arrested for possession of the drug to argue it was for medicinal purposes. He said it was Maryland's first acknowledgement that marijuana had medicinal value, reflecting on the 2003 law signed by then Governor Robert Ehrlich, another Republican. Here we are 20 years later going, it doesn't matter. Have a nice day. Have fun. And we're going to stop arresting people and all that. In perspective, it's a shame as we think of all the people whose lives have been ruined in the meantime. But better late than never. At the time, the Republican wasn't on board with full-blown legalization. Murphy said, I was not an advocate for this, but as I watched states and the federal government say no to medical, it made me question everything about adult use. Like, what else are they lying to me about? Over time, however, Murphy's views have evolved, as have those among Maryland voters and lawmakers. He said this was something that was passed in the 1930s. It escalated in the 70s, again in the 80s. Now, all of a sudden, we realize we have come to the full-blown realization, both policy-wise and politically, this is the wrong thing to do. The government has the backing of the people in polling and everywhere else to do the right thing. Every 2 years in Congress and every 4 years here, there's a new crop of people who aren't vested in the drug war. They can vote their conscience. The former delegate later went to work for a national marijuana policy organization, lobbying federal lawmakers. Today, he heads his own policy group focused on cannabis policy. The bill signed by Governor Wes Moore on Wednesday opens the door to Maryland's first legal recreational sales on July 1st. That bill was one of more than 180 pieces of legislation Moore signed into law on Wednesday. Those bills also included protections for access to abortion in Maryland and expansions of gender-affirming health care for transgender persons. Moore, speaking before signing the cannabis bill, said the new law will ensure that the rollout of recreational cannabis in our state drives opportunity in an equitable way. The criminalization of marijuana harmed low-income communities and communities of color in a profound way. We want to make sure that the legalization of marijuana lifts those communities now in a profound way. Under the law, which went into effect upon the governor's signature, existing growers, processors, and dispensaries in the state's medical industry can convert to a hybrid license. Will Tilburg, acting director of the newly created Maryland Cannabis Administration, said his agency is working quickly to implement the legislation and develop Maryland as a model for equity and safety in cannabis regulation. The law also opens up hundreds of additional licenses, including a round set aside for minority entrepreneurs. Murphy, however, said that the new law doesn't go far enough to help prospective minority owners. Am I thrilled with the way this bill turned out? Not really. If I got my way, there would be no limits on the number of dispensaries or the number of producers or processors. Let the market decide. If you want equity applicants to benefit, they have to get in the game. When you limit the number of people who can get in the game, they're just always going to be underrepresented. I could not agree more than with Don Murphy. You want to open this up for minority communities and get folks in there, there needs to be unlimited licensing. You can't just say, oh, we're having 5 licenses, 10 licenses for a state. That just doesn't make sense anyway from a supply chain side. But it's time for people to open their doors. And this man, Don Murphy, a very nice, persistent lawmaker, has been pounding the pavement in Washington for over 20 years trying to get this done. And he is a Republican, people. Yes, there are Republicans. Lakeisha Camise, she got to meet Don Murphy a couple weeks ago for Lobby Day. She says, way to go, Don Murphy. Minorities for medical marijuana, they love meeting Don. Don is, I believe, helping them out now on a few case-by-case basis. So he's a good guy to have in your corner. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News. Much love to my fellow elephants out there.
Oh, yeah. I need an elephant sound on this keyboard, Adam.
I'm glad we don't have one.
Yeah, one of those. Yes, that's right.
Do that again, please, Gretchen.
Man,
you are not recruiting any new Republicans.
Party if I ever heard it.
Battle cry.
I mean, Don preaches free market. That's what he says to get things open and moving. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a good Republican practical stance to getting things through legislation.
Yes, no, I totally agree with you. I'm very familiar, known Don for a number of years. And big ups to him on all this. We appreciate all the work that he's doing out there because I see him constantly at Capitol Hill tweeting and sending positive messages and having positive talks with individuals, especially a lot of ones that people are scared of or scared to talk to.
You know, I'm a fan of anybody, Republican, Democrat, or in between, that pushes legislation and comes to a consensus agreement on getting to the right place.
Cute, Rico. I see what you're doing.
As long as it's your right place.
Yep.
All right. On that happy note, why don't we just keep it moving?
Yeah, we are, Gretchen. I was getting ready for that. We're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back. We're staying on time today, Gretchen. Be happy.
Woo woo. We'll see.
Yeah. Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, you need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good Thing the Law offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. They're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com.
Oh, yeah, it's that halftime point. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you're pounding that like button. And make sure you head over to our website, www.highat9news.com, to check out all the articles, share them, tweet them, do all those magical things that you do with the internet. On top of it, make sure you check out our new shop because we have tons of great merchandise that you will love to get. Now, on top of it, some of the orders are even actually shipping out today and will be arriving within a couple days to some of the people that have already sent in a few orders. So thank you all to them. Also, too, if you want us to pay attention to your comments in the chat, make sure you make them a super chat. And we'll be right back, Jack.
Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Oh, yeah. Our next correspondent is more than just another Manhattan-based Delta 8 slang and TikTok star. She's also a 25-year board-certified integrative medicine internist and two-time best-selling author and the CEO of Balanced Medicinals. Come to the stage, y'all know who it is, Dr. Mary Clifton.
Thanks for the introduction, Rico. I have a great article today that's coming out of Colorado State University, a new study that finds that marijuana helps cancer patients think more clearly and manage pain. And the study used cannabis from dispensaries. This study was for 25 people, average age 53, and they were studied at the onset of treatment and then again at a week and 2 weeks and then further on. And they used that Stroop tool that assesses cognitive function by showing you the color blue, but the words themselves are red. And that tests two different levels of cognitive ability. Let me see if I can pull it up and show you that, because you'll recognize it. And it makes it, yeah, it's right here. I'll just enlarge it. So, then like down here, you are supposed to say the color, and that tests your immediate recall and also a different level of cognitive testing. So it is a pretty effective way to see how people's brains are responding. But this study looked at these people, at the onset of treatment and throughout their treatment with cannabis, and found that people using high CBD products reported better sleep and more relaxation. People using higher THC products reported feeling more high than people who use less THC.
Right.
But the most important, interesting thing is that people had decreases in pain and actually reported improvements in cognitive function. And that the patients took a diversity of edible cannabis products that they individually picked out at Colorado dispensaries, including infused tinctures, baked goods, gummies, and other cannabis edibles with various cannabinoid profiles. The majority of the studies that take place in the U.S. rely on these very limited sources of cannabis, but now federally authorized studies are trying to free up researchers to allow access to cannabis from dispensaries and allow patients to choose a cannabis that they can tolerate. Overall takeaway is that cannabis has significant therapeutic potential for cancer patients, and that people are open to trying whatever they think might be useful. But this additional data will really help people feel more comfortable for looking for what works best. When they would drive to each subject's home, they drove in a mobile laboratory van that they nicknamed the Canavan. and again, 2 weeks of ad libitum cannabis use associated with improvements in pain intensity and pain interference, sleep quality, and subjective cognitive functioning, with pain levels dropping within an hour of use. And so I think that this is something like when you hear about how cannabis may negatively impact driving capabilities, there are people with ADHD or with pain or with spasm that once those things are controlled, they actually become better drivers, or once they sleep better, they become better drivers. And this is, I think, what's happening in this study. You're seeing reductions in pain and better sleep. And then that's leading to improved cognition for these patients. They're able to think a bit more clearly and feel better overall because those nagging symptoms are under control. And I'm Dr. Mary Clifton, reporting for High at 9 News. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. I'm thrilled about this study.
This is great news, Dr. Mary, and especially because they're using dispensary cannabis with this study and not just the government secured booth.
Dr. Mary, I have a question for you on this, because you said that they did this color theory kind of a test, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they do this? Do they have any like active gang members involved in this test?
Oh my God. color.
The Stroop test is very interesting and has been well studied. It's I can't find it now. I had it pulled up for you, but there's the immediate recognition, sort of like muscle memory cognition that you do when you ask somebody what the color is, and then there's the more executive functioning, sort of higher level cognitive work of trying to bring all the facts in and say the right answer. So that test is well studied and very easy to administer. So that was a good idea to use. But this is all very subjective, and you have 25 patients. I mean, the limitations are it's a small study, and these people entered into the study. Not everyone completed it. So these were the people who completed the study that we could collect data on. So, there was probably some self-selection bias here, that if you're into smoking weed or you want to give it a try and you think it might help, then, you sign up for the study, and sure enough, you had a positive outcome. So it's, we still need bigger studies, or we just need to give people who are sick and want to try weed the option to use it to control their symptoms.
I would have passed this test with flying colors, Dr. Mary, literally.
You would have passed the test in flying colors?
100%. Yes, I would have aced it.
I probably would have too.
See, you ace all color tests, huh, Jason?
You know it, baby. You know it. I know how.
My brother is colorblind, but I think it's just mostly green and blue that runs through our family. Colorblindness is interesting. But I suppose this study would be impacted by the colorblindness.
It's very interesting, like the whole gene makeup and how that works.
Yeah, what is that?
If you're colorblind to blue, Dr. Mary, does that mean you still can't see yellow also? Because yellow and blue make green.
My brother is colorblind to green and blue, and I'm allergic to blue dyes. So we're just all around really down on blue things in my family.
So what about blue jeans? So when you
I should ask my allergist if I'm allergic to Bluetooth. I'll mention that.
What about blue?
Yeah, and black men like naturally don't get colorblind too. It's not, we don't carry the gene.
Oh, there's no gene.
There's no gene carry. No, that's a real thing. It's a real thing.
I believe it. I just thought you were going to say in
males.
black men. When
No,
I
like,
was talking about
it's,
all the
it's,
things she's allergic
yeah,
to.
man, no,
My mind went somewhere else.
like the whole gene like makeup of that whole thing is like pretty cool. If I had if I was not partying so hard when I was in college, like I would have taken up more genealogy classes and studies. That was like really cool. Like black men
I
are
don't
not
know.
natural
Genealogy
carriers.
stuff always strikes me as a lot of pre, World War II, just genetic studies are something I want to avoid. Because it just always creates this concept that
Yeah,
not being colorblind is superior to being colorblind. And I don't know if that's
right.
true, I mean, it's a different way of viewing the world, but not worse or better.
It is a slippery slope, and you can't.
Yeah, geneticists are a little. They were the heavy hitters in World War II when it came time to really go after people. So yeah, I'm not into it.
Yeah, the N word the N word that we for some reason can't say on YouTube, but you can say the other N word, right?
Stop it, Rico. Stop what you're doing.
I'm just saying.
Wait, what's the word we can't say on YouTube?
The censors are very selective with the N words that you can use on this.
What is it?
We got platform. Matthew is not being silenced anymore. He was being silenced by the
Hi, everybody.
for some reason.
Probably because he was using the other N word.
I want to know what this word is. You guys text it to me.
Nice background.
It's 4 letters and it's not 6. Just put it that way.
Oh yeah, I put a camera in my ear, and this is what's going on in my head right now, you guys.
You're right.
But if you want to be healthy, your genetics are always really influenced by your epigenetics, by eating, and sleeping, and exercise, and relationships. That declares how your genetics are going to replicate themselves. And we've got all of these small studies that look at cannabis being helpful for cancer. So in suppressing cancer and reducing the rapid growth of rapidly dividing cells. And then on top of that, it helps you sleep and reduces pain. It's a magic medicine for cancer.
That it is. Thank you so much for this story, Dr. Mary. This is fascinating. I learned a lot.
You're welcome. I was thrilled to share it.
Yeah, this is fantastic news. We're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Oh, yeah. First of all, I do want to make one quick announcement. Make sure that we do acknowledge in the cannabis industry, we did have a recent death yesterday of Mr. Milo, famous breeder from Amsterdam. He created the UK cheese, which a lot of us know and love for a number of years. And so we want to wish him and his family all the best in this trying time and know that the cannabis industry loved you very much. But now kicking it back up, we are going to Nickolas Wildstar. That's right. He's the blunt-blowing Fresno activist that Joe Biden would love to silence for even acknowledging exists. That's right. Here to change the narrative. It is the governor himself, Mr. Nickolas Wildstar.
Thank you, Jason. Maryland's governor has signed a bill to regulate marijuana sales, setting the stage for statewide legalization. House and Senate lawmakers reached an agreement on the cannabis legislation last month, sending it to the desk of Governor Wes Moore, who signed it into law on Wednesday. The governor, who I must say is a black man, said at a signing ceremony that the law will ensure that the rollout of recreational cannabis in our state drives opportunity in an equitable way. The criminalization of marijuana harmed low-income communities and communities of color in a profound way, he said. We want to make sure that the legalization of marijuana lifts those communities now in a profound way. Legislators have worked quickly to get the cannabis regulatory legislation in place before the state's voter-approved legalization law takes effect in July. Under the new cannabis law, cannabis will be taxed at 9%, while medical marijuana sales will be exempt from the tax. 35% of marijuana tax revenue will go toward a community reinvestment fund with counties, a cannabis public health fund, and a Cannabis Business Assistance Fund, each getting another 5%. The 5% in revenue that goes to the counties will then be divided up, with 50% going to local municipalities based on marijuana sales at retailers based in those jurisdictions. A new independent but still bureaucratic Maryland Cannabis Administration will be responsible for regulating the program. Existing medical cannabis dispensaries will be converted into dual licensees at the same time that legalization takes effect on July 1st if they've paid an extortion fee. Ultimately, there will be a licensing cap for 300 dispensaries, 100 processors, and 75 growers. For smaller micro businesses, there will be a limit of 10 dispensaries, 100 processors, and 100 growers. A capital access program will be created under the State Department of Commerce to promote industry opportunities for social equity applicants and provide low-interest loans. The legislation will also end sales of Delta 8 hemp products on the broad market, instead requiring that any intoxicating cannabis products be done through licensed marijuana businesses. Medical cannabis patients will be able to grow up to 4 plants for personal use rather than 2 under the current law. They will not have to pay any taxes on medical marijuana products. At least 25% of shelf space in dispensaries will need to be reserved for cannabis products from social equity licensees. Absurdly, smoking will not be permitted indoors at on-site consumption facilities, but people could do so on outdoor patios at licensed facilities. By July 2025, regulators are looking to have rules created for marijuana sales made online. Because the bills were considered emergency legislation that took effect immediately, they needed to be approved with 3/5 of the vote in both chambers to be enacted. Under the voter-approved referendum, legalization of possession of up to 1.5 ounces of cannabis takes effect on July 1st, putting pressure on lawmakers to get regulations in place for the government to take its cut. In addition to legalizing the purchase and possession of up to 1.5 ounces of cannabis for adults starting this summer, the legalization will also remove criminal penalties for possession of up to 2.5 ounces. Adults 21 and older will be allowed to grow up to 2 plants for personal use and gift cannabis without remuneration. Past convictions for conduct made legal under the proposed law will be automatically expunged, and people currently serving time offense released, but they will be eligible for resentencing. The legislation makes it so people with convictions for possession with intent to distribute can petition the courts for expungement 3 years after serving out their time. That's the most screwed up part of this deal for those convicted of sales of marijuana, when now it's going to be legal to do exactly that, as long as you're licensed, of course. Reporting for the High 9 News Hour, this is Nick Wildstar, a.k.a. the Governor. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, I'm black, y'all. Shout out to Westmore, making moves.
And I mean, so why is he only allowing for 5 social equity licenses?
Can you repeat that, Jason?
I said, why is he only allowing for 5 social equity licenses?
I don't know. I'm not super familiar with the breakdown of Maryland's process. Maybe because only 5 are needed. Maybe that's all that they are allotted to have there. Maybe that's all that they can afford. Like, why are you pointing to the negatives first?
They only have. So you're saying they only have 5 minorities that were affected by the drug war in Maryland?
Is that what I said? No, it's not.
That's what I heard.
No, it's not.
Based off your answer, that's what I heard.
Based off the history of you responding to stories, like, right, yeah, you starting with the negative when we are starting with a positive on this story. The fact that they have a competent governor putting through competent legislation on
you are
cannabis.
An amazing backpedaler, bro. All of a sudden, how fast do you run the 40 in your backpedal?
Dude, if I even try to take like 3 fast steps these days, I'm gonna pull a hamstring, man. I run about 4 ever. 40 right these days.
Oh my!
I think there's great news, man. Gretchen, you're a fan of Westmore and Maryland cannabis. What are your thoughts on this?
I think
I think the Red Room is having issues with
we need you to turn your mic up because we can barely hear you, Gretchen. We want to hear what you have to say.
Dude, you were the Jagoffs who told me to turn it down.
Oh, it sounds.
Jagoff.
Anyway.
I love that.
I didn't fix Jack.
What do you?
I don't know what Adam's telling me to
Let's
do.
go, Jason. Jason, comment on this instead of asking me about my stance.
Do I sound okay? I'm coming to you from the 13th dimension.
Is that Saint Germain?
We have Rob Bass. Rob Bass has entered the building. DJ Rob Bass.
I think the Maryland law could be better. Like Don Murphy stated, I don't think there should be limited licensing anywhere. I don't.
But limited licensing does provide for higher values on licenses. Gretchen.
Let the market figure it out.
Let the market.
Who establishes the market?
I thought you were a Republican and a capitalist, Jason.
I am. I was just playing a little devil's advocate. You know what I'm saying?
You talking about me?
There we go. Backpedaling.
I was not a backpedal. I was asking in the form of a question. If you asked in the form of a question,
excuse me. Conservatives don't backpedal. They flip flop.
Stop it. Stop it. I did not flop.
I like that the bill includes regulation about talking about Delta 8 because a lot of those Delta 8 products are not tested, not regulated, grown used with hemp grown on soil that's contaminated with heavy metals and other farm pesticides. So shunting those materials into the process where there's more testing and oversight.
Hold on, are those under this law? Are those products going to have to be tested the same as cannabis products in order to be sold in cannabis dispensaries?
I'm excited about the support of home grow. But yeah, it does look like they're going to apply more regulation to the Delta 8 industry, which is a good idea. I think having some testing standards in place is a really great start.
Shout out to Maryland for that, at least.
Shout out to Wes Moore. And the fact, he's doing such great things and just so happens to be black.
Why do you think the man wrote the law, Rico? You keep giving him a shout out. And all he did was sign the damn thing.
Why is it okay for you to rep Earl Perlmutter? Why is it okay for you to back every other Republican getting down with these initiatives? I'm just saying.
Because Perlmutter wrote his bill.
Hey. But did Perlmutter have the power to put it into action? He did not.
He did not. But we'll see. I like Wes Moore. We shall see. Maryland
is
has
a
not
man putting his power down and walking the talk. Shout out to Wes Moore. Come on the show. Come on the show, brother.
I like this guy, but you're making me dislike him for how much you're loving him.
I think we need to
leave it alone, Rico.
Oh man, let's keep it rocking here. We got to add, or we good to go?
Keep moving.
Let's roll. Up next, what's that?
Rolling right into Liz Grow.
This Lone Star state advocate and storyteller is the co-founder of Grow House Media, hosts the Feminized podcast where she interviews some of the dopest women in the game and provides tips on growing premium windowsill Delta 8. Y'all know who it is, Liz Grow.
Thank you all. I'm so excited to bring you the story from the marijuana moment this morning. It's Washington State County approved psychedelics decriminalization resolution. So excited to hear this. Any sort of state that takes the brakes, just takes the criminalization off plant medicine is, I'm such a fan of being in Texas. But this Washington State County has become the latest U.S. jurisdiction to locally deprioritize enforcement of laws against psychedelics like psilocybin and ayahuasca. Whatcom County in Washington State has approved a resolution to decriminalize psychedelics, urging law enforcement to deprioritize enforcement of their possession and use. The resolution, which was passed by the Whatcom County Council, also calls for the establishment of a working group to study therapeutic potential of psychedelic substances and make recommendations regarding the use of these substances in Whatcom County. I feel like community is the theme for me as commissioner, and this issue is showing up in spades, says Commissioner Heidi Eisenhower, a woman. I hope that we can be leaders on this horizon, not only in our county, community, and in the state, by taking a stand for something that's right. The law enforcement officials raised concerns about a policy that would restrict them from enforcing state law, and also suggested that psychedelics only represent a small fraction of cases that they handle. But the board moved forward with the revised resolution nonetheless, recognizing that while they can't unilaterally decriminalize plant-based medicines that are controlled substances, they can symbolically show where they stand during a time that the issue is receiving so much attention at the state and federal level. I think council member and primary advocate Tyler Bird said it best. This is a conversation about human compassion and empathy. When you look at what psilocybin has been able to do in the lives of people who have PTSD, depression, anxiety, the list goes on, it's truly life-changing. So congratulations, and Washington and Whatcom County. Guys, I would love to hear from you about this awesome progress that's being made in Washington. I'm Liz Groh, and I'm reporting from deep in the heart of Texas for Highlight 9 News.
The night are big and bright.
I mean, in Washington now, they're even bigger, right? It's like decriminalization is such a beautiful thing.
Great move, and this goes back to Richard Nixon outlawing and declaring the war on drugs and outlawing these substances in order to target communities of color as well as anti-war. So we're finally realizing that unlike a Schedule I drug, which is highly addictive, toxic to the human body with high potential for abuse, psychedelics actually have a high potential for community trauma release.
You're going out like a robbery, brother.
Yeah, you're going in and out like.
That's my day today, you guys. I love you guys.
Liz Groh. Liz.
Yes.
Do you think this will help the cannabis argument?
I see them as two separate arguments. I think our lawmakers are kind of really clouded with, years of prohibition, whereas we've got psilocybin that looks, it's more clinical. We can really associate it with, PTSD and our veterans. So I don't know. I'm not hopeful that this will help the cannabis issue, but hopefully, maybe. It'll make people feel better. They'll take more psilocybin and maybe their minds will change.
Hallelujah.
Matthew, you want to give this another go? I think we got your audio settings fixed.
Can anyone hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you perfect.
Yeah, just saying this is a great move in this arc of this story. Richard Nixon originally targeted these drugs to attack communities of color that were aligning with the anti-war movement, the free speech movement. Unlike Schedule I drugs, which is this is currently, all these are labeled as Schedule I drugs, which are stated to be toxic to the human body, having a high potential for abuse and addiction. Psychedelics are actually non-toxic, hugely beneficial, with a great potential to better our community through the improvement of individuals' lives and the lessening of trauma, PTSD, and malignant behavior patterns and personality patterns. So this is a great move for Washington.
They were also really unsupported by religious communities because people were having their psychedelics and then saying that they were having the most religious experience of their life without paying a church, without recognizing the experience as being led through a Christian God. And so big religion, if there is big religion, but I guess there is against psychedelics too. So it really is a huge win for everybody to have access to these products and to have really beautiful experiences that enhance their life and help them, feel it more connected, more like fingers on one hand, as opposed to the ego elevating drugs of cocaine or alcohol that just make you want to fight and defend yourself. It's a totally different vibrational energy around these natural medicines.
I agree, Dr. Mary, 100%. And I would posit the original human religion was an astrotheological, entheogenic cult. They were fertility rituals that aligned us with the sun and the stars. That's why they made all these solar calendars and megaliths so that we could know our place in the universe. We could locate ourselves using space-time. We would then use these substances because they connect us to the divine inside ourselves, and we don't need an intercessor to try to attempt to harness or control us. We don't need these hierarchies. And if we look at in the Western realm, it was the Roman Catholic Church hijacking the Christians, who were actually called the Essenes and the Gnostics, and these were high-level yogic psychedelic shamans. these folks used mushrooms, and they wrote the Bible and these stories as encoded alliterations to the Christ consciousness, which is the radio frequency of love and intelligence that pervades the universe, and Jesus, who was the fruit body of the mushroom. Yes. And when you would eat of his body and his blood, you would then be transported to the kingdom of heaven, because the kingdom of heaven, again, exists inside of you. So if you look up the Council of Nicaea, the Emperor Constantine, and why were the churches of the living waters excluded for the Council of Nicaea, what you see is that all of the proto-Christian sects that had the use of psychedelics were excluded from the formation of the Christian religion by the Roman emperor, so they could create a social engineering system based on separation from God, an intercessor you have to pay, and sexual shame. And the game is still going on to this day.
Oh, yeah. 2 thumbs up on the sexual shame. I mean, as soon as religion gets in your bedroom, then they have the ultimate control. And in the Catholic Church, they still eat the body and blood of Christ, because the priest, had that capacity to change the bread and wine into the body and blood that was passed down right from the original Pope, Peter.
Yes, and if you read the Immortality Key, you will see that they were all tripping balls.
Hallelujah.
And with that, thank you all out there for tuning in with us for yet another episode of High 9 News. Catch us live weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our live audience members, online supporters tuning in, giving us feedback on the daily headlines you tell us matter the most, because we're all democratic and shit. Our tenured industry correspondent team tuning in from all over the globe, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and adding your opinions to the conversation. Production team, wonderful Jaja Simone holding things down over in Clubhouse. Sorry for the mishap this morning. Adam in the background, as well. You are so valuable to us, my brother. Great to see you this week. And to the haters out there, we can both benefit by you upgrading to a super fan. Get your hatred amplified and help our pockets grow. Let's meet in the middle like Congress cannot. Finally, it's Cannabis Sativa L, the reason we show up every single day. Thank you. It's May the 4th, 2023. The show's over. You've all been blessed with the top industry headlines. We hope it was enough for you put in your pipe and smoke it, at least until tomorrow. My name is Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street, and this is the way. May the 4th be with you all. Liz Grow, you have the final word today. What you got?
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. We have to come together to find a way to free this plant for everyone, every human being on this planet.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is a certified hood classic.